Fraser.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name is Heath Snyder, and today I want to talk about some initiation stories and how they relate to gender and discrimination and how it influenced the narrator inside the stories. So nearly every human on Earth has had some type of event that has changed them from a boy to a man or a girl to a woman. And the three stories from this class that I think best exemplify those traits are Boys and Girls by Alice Munro, A Party Down the Square by Ralph Ellison, and Indian Camp by Ernest Hemingway. So the first topic I want to get into is gender, and the first story is Boys and Girls from Alice Munro. And focus on a young girl who's trying to gain her father's approval by trying to do the least feminine tasks that she can think of by focusing on all the male tasks out on the farm. And she is constantly playing tricks on her brother, and from Amelia DeFalco in Caretakers and Caregivers, she states, "It's no coincidence that Munro's characters are threatening, enigmatic, and potentially conniving figures, as she writes a lot of her characters in stories like this." And the girl in the story, who was unnamed, did not want to become a homemaker or a caregiver to her family. She wanted to continue working outside with her father and help her father make the farm a better place, which plays back into Munro as a young child, had to quit school and quit doing a lot of the things that she wanted to do to become the primary caregiver to her mother, who had Parkinson's disease. And the next story that kind of relates to this and I want to compare to it is Ernest Hemingway's Indian Camp. This is a little different as it follows a young boy who is with his uncle and father in a camping trip in Michigan. And his father is trying to get Nick to enter the gender role of a strong male character who's always saving the day, and takes him to an Indian camp where a woman is giving birth, and really is making him watch this situation and see what's happening. And at the end of the story, Nick witnesses death of the Indian woman's husband, who kills himself on the top bunk while she's giving birth in the bottom bunk. So the main things between these two stories is, in Indian Camp, the father is forcing Nick into that gender role, while in Boys and Girls, the girl is trying to get herself into that gender role, and her father knows that one day she's going to be a homemaker, but he has to wait until her brother is old enough to fill the role that he needs on the farm. And in Marlene Goldman's Penning the Body, she describes the role of male and female spaces. In Boys and Girls, the male spaces are outside where the foxes are on the farm, and in the basement where he does a lot of work. And the feminine areas are inside the house where the mom cooks and does laundry and stuff. And they really don't cross over much in that story. But in Indian Camp, the feminine area is where the woman is giving birth, but it can be seen as Nick and his father really invading that space when they go to help the woman give birth. And the males always are staying outside, talking, smoking, and doing other things like that. And a really good quote from Goldman again says, "From her male privileged point of view, the narrator looks on her mother the same way she looks at the foxes." So she's looking like down at her mother. She really doesn't want to be her caretaker or caregiver. She wants to be outside with the animals. The next topic I want to talk about is race. And the two stories I want to use for this are Indian Camp and Ralph Ellison's A Party Down at the Square. In Ralph Ellison's A Party Down at the Square, he focuses on he's an African-American writer who is focusing on a young white boy that is at a lynching in the square of a town. And you really have to think, what did this man deserve to be lynched? And in all likelihood, he probably didn't do anything. They were punishing him by trying to keep the other African Americans down and not really allow them to have any confidence that they could rise up or have equal rights as everyone else. In Anthony Stewart's The Role of Violence and the Idea of America and Ralph Ellison's A Party Down at the Square, he tries to equate the boy and the black man as they are both unnamed, but I really don't agree with this, as the black man has suffered oppression his whole life, but the young white boy has really no clue what is going on, and he needs to figure out what is happening, but the black man understands exactly what's going on. And in Hemingway, he is obviously has some racist qualities in his story as he uses the language, the damn squaw bitch. And I did some research, and squaw is actually a sexual derogatory term towards Indian, Native American women. And in Jeffrey Myers, Hemingway's Primitivism and Indian Camp, he states, "There's no evidence of humanity, love, or solidarity. The Indians are strikingly effectless and isolated. The men move out of the range of screams, and the husband is rolled over against the wall. The only direct contact made with the squaw is by the 3 Indians and Uncle George who held her down." So you can see Hemingway really has no compassion for the Native Americans in the story. And Ellison had a direct quote about Hemingway talking about how he mainly writes about instances that take place overseas or nothing really directly in the United States. It says, "Otherwise, he might have had studied the ritual violence closer to home, that in which the sacrifice is that of a human scapegoat, the lynching bee. Certainly, the right is not confirmed to Rope as agency, nor to the South as seen, nor even to the Negro as a victim." So Ellison is saying Hemingway could have easily written about how African Americans are being oppressed in the United States and what they were really doing, but instead he decides to go other places to focus. So in closing, these topics are extremely relevant today with racism still being an issue, and also with gender in the workplace and women not having exactly the equal pay or equal rights as men. And that would be it for today. Any questions? Thank you.